I'm a real big, die-hard, unapologetic sci-fi and fantasy nerd.
Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings loom large in Dina Weisberg's early experiences with fiction.
You're late.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
As a kid, she was a bookworm, fascinated by thinking about and writing stories. Harry Potter and Star Trek came later.
First, and understand this, Harry, because it's very important. Not all wizards are good.
Our orders are to intercept, investigate, and take whatever action is necessary.
When she got to college, she wanted to know, how exactly do authors create amazingly detailed fictional worlds?
How do these black squiggles on a white page suddenly make me think of Middle-earth or Narnia or something like that? It seemed like magic.
Now Weisberg studies the ways our minds create and think about things we know are not real. She's a professor of psychological and brain sciences at Villanova University.
My work there is primarily with preschoolers, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, looking at pretend games that they play.
And she says kids are actually very savvy about the stories they're creating and consuming. They know what's real and what's not, unless adults they trust swoop in.
Santa Claus is our fault as adults. There is a billion-dollar industry that is dedicated to getting kids to believe that this fantasy creature is real. And so, of course, they're going to believe that he's real because that's what all of the trusted adults in their lives are telling them.
There are imaginary worlds, imaginary people, and also imaginary friends.
An imaginary companion can take any form you want, anytime you want.
Tracy Gleason studies relationships, real and imagined. She's a developmental psychologist at Wesley College. She also works with young kids, and over the years, she's met a range of imaginary companions.
Despite the fact that they could change it at will, anytime, and do anything they wanted anytime, they tend to model them after real relationships in a very, sort of realistic way.
Robots, trains, and blankets, a shadow, a tiny can of tomato paste, a herd of cows, all different colors. One kid said in preschool she was friends with an invisible little girl.
But in fact, it was a piece of pasta. She just hadn't really wanted to tell us that, so she made up a little girl instead of saying that it was actually a piece of pasta. I think rotini, something like that.
Gleason agrees that children can almost always separate fantasy from reality. And she has a public service announcement. Imaginary friends are not a problem. In fact, they're a sign a child loves fun, fantasy, and relating to other beings.
Sometimes in the middle of interviewing a child, I'll be asking questions about what the companion looks like and what they like to do and this sort of thing. And about halfway through the interview, the child will kind of look at me and say, he's not real.
Kids often say this in a whisper, as though they don't want their imaginary companions to hear. They're worried the adults are confused and don't understand the rules of fictional worlds. Relax and let the fantasy have a life of its own.
What was that?
My imaginary friend fell down.
God, Daria, even your imaginary friends are embarrassing.
For Philosophy Talk, I'm Holly J. McDede.